Hi guys, morning. Hope everyone's really well. Today we're going to talk about. Actually, I really enjoyed planning this. What Freud can teach us about not just recruitment, but I think at the moment a lot of these videos are going along the line of life choices, and that's probably in line with some of the candidates and businesses that we're engaging with at the moment that are deciding on new ways forward and how to be more true to who they are, how to be more true to their customer, provide a better customer experience, etc. So it might be interesting to reflect on a number of these things from a CX point of view, so a customer experience point of view, but also from your own personal kind of user experience point of view of your life and how you feel it's going. So these are just some points of reflection. So for those of you who don't know, Sigmund Freud was a psychoanalyst and a neurologist. He actually founded psychoanalysis, and he was the guy who came up with the notion of the unconscious. We won't go into the ego and the id and all things in between. I spent the part of my life, actually almost a complete year, studying him at one point. So there's a lot that you could go into, but I'm just going to pull out some of the main themes. Dreams, life and death, male and female sexuality, melancholia, personal development. There's some interesting things to say on depression as well, being a huge source of strength. In the late 1930s, he almost made it out of Vienna after the German army entered the city. He managed to take some of his family members with him, but 4 of his sisters and his daughters were left behind, and they actually very sadly died in the either of starvation or in the gas chambers. So Freud himself had his fair share of exposure to suffering. He said that tragedy made him strong and proud above all, and was actually the mainstay of his determination to dedicate himself to the work of mental and psychic development and on the personality and the brain. He asked some questions like what is our mind composed of, soul, who we really are, all those lovely things. So these are some quotes that I've pulled out that there are things that will hopefully help you to reconsider life in general and to think about who and what we are as people, and therefore kind of converting that into perhaps helpful business outcomes or businesses or business focus. So the first one I pulled out was one day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. I think that goes very nicely in line with some of the organizations here that we're working with in New Zealand that are trying to transform and redefine themselves from a digital strategy point of view, because I think it is quite an immature market for digital, and there's a lot of struggle taking place and a lot of defining, refining going on. So just for you leaders out there who are struggling to implement change, that perhaps one day you look back at these being the most formative and beautiful years. The second one was most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. I think this is nice to reflect on. I think there's a counterintuitiveness that comes when people think of being free and saying, well, that means that I'm not responsible. Whereas I think, in fact, I'm inclined to agree that it involves a huge responsibility towards yourself, perhaps your business strategy, what you're looking to achieve. So we hear a lot from people wanting, freedom to create, freedom to drive change, freedom to make a ding in the universe, like we spoke about yesterday's video with Steve Jobs, but that rolls off the tongue really easily, and actually it calls for a very, very strong plan and level of responsibility there. So the third one that I really liked is that unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The reason I pulled this one out is that I think from a culture point of view, in teams and businesses, this I see all the time, not so much, in our clients, but even in my own, in the recruitment industry itself. I think that there is a lot of agencies who don't support and train their staff correctly. I think that emotions are not expressed and supported, and I think it does come out in quite ugly ways. One of the things that I'm very, very passionate about, and is one of my main whys, is supporting the success of other people, and in order to do that, you need to know what's going on with them emotionally. And if you're somebody who's trying to deliver a top class customer experience, well, the emotions that are being experienced in the mind of that individual, as one of my UX candidates, Ankita Thomas, once explained to me, is that user experience is something that doesn't happen on a screen, that it happens in the mind, and customer experience is exactly the same. And if you're not aware as a business leader of the emotions expressed and unexpressed of your customers, it's going to be very, very hard to answer them and cope with them. I read something recently, and it was saying your most disgruntled client is your best teacher. And I think that's really true, because I think easy emotions and positive emotions are easy, and they don't take any sense of responsibility to express. But emotions that are perceived as somehow negative, which are the most transformative within us, are often not expressed. And I think organizations don't listen to the negative emotions of their customers. They try to close them down, and they try to put them away, instead of actually harnessing them and using them as ways to improve the quality of their service and the elegance and precision of their service. So the last one that I'll comment on is this: it is impossible to escape the impression that people commonly use false standards of measurement, that they seek power, success, and wealth for themselves, admire them in others, and they underestimate what is of true value in life. Yeah, I mean, look, I suppose you don't need me to tell you that that happens all the time. I think that where is that relevant to your own journey as a candidate, or your journey as a digital leader, is that focusing on long-term business values, focusing on the values that you have as a candidate that you're bringing to an organization. At interview, instead of saying, "Hey, like, what, how much is the job paying me? What am I going to get?" What are the values in that organization? How true are they to that? What's the pedigree behind that? And really valuing what is long-term, sustainable, and important, because not having clear values in a culture where unexpressed emotions are allowed to fester, where people say they want to be free but they don't accept responsibilities, will make it very, very difficult to one day in retrospect look back and think that the struggle was beautiful, because it will never be in environments like that. So yeah, I think Freud has a lot to say that is helpful in business and in the digital world today. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please post any comments below. Happy to get into a nice meaty argument or a discussion with anybody who has a variance of view. Really, really keen to hear from you. So thank you.